Hello, everyone, and welcome to our weekly office time chat with me, Michele Ruiz. I'm a CEO and founder historically of several companies, and I am delighted to join you today to talk about actually really a favorite topic of mine, which often is not a favorite topic for a lot of entrepreneurs, especially entrepreneurs that are selling to large corporations and government agencies, whether it be federal, state, local, and that is negotiations. So this is part of what I cover in my program called Possibility Architect. And a lot of what I teach is based on my own experience. I'm a serial entrepreneur. I'm now onto my third company called BioSync, a science-based technology company. And our clients are very large corporations. Think some of the largest multinationals in the world, and federal, state, and local governments. And so I'm talking in particular to women entrepreneurs in this particular context because I find that I have a lot of women entrepreneurs and minority entrepreneurs as well who come to me and ask me to guide them or provide some mentoring based on the successes that I've had with my companies. And negotiations actually comes up a fair amount. And a lot of people are scared of negotiation. They don't like it. They don't like the process. They view it as a hostile process. But if you really think about the objective of negotiating, especially when you're negotiating contracts, and this is really important because negotiating terms that help you as a business owner, as you're scaling your business, and we're talking about businesses that are scaling past $1 million in annual revenue. Sometimes contract terms can come back that can be either onerous or too onerous. They can actually cause a very significant cash flow issue for your company based on net payment terms. There can be insurance requirements that are so steep that may or may not be applicable to the work that you're doing. And so it's really important to understand the negotiation process, the objective, and start with the idea that it's not necessarily a hostile situation. In fact, it's not a hostile situation. It's really two parties coming together to try to come to an agreement that serves both entities. And so it's a challenge, and I have discovered this, and I had to learn this, by the way. In my first company, I didn't know, I wasn't actually a good negotiator because I didn't know how to negotiate. And I have the same feelings that I hear a lot of business owners talk about, which is they don't like it, they're uncomfortable with it. Sometimes if they're concerned about their relationship, they feel that by negotiating, it's going to put the relationship at risk. And frankly, they're just afraid of hearing the word no. So I want to share with you that first and foremost, if you are scaling your business past $1 million in annual revenue, selling B2B, selling to large corporations and government agencies, you need to get good at it. And if you're not good at it, and for some people, it's something that you can learn. And for others, you want to bring in someone on your behalf to negotiate for you. So you want to first start with understanding what is the objective of negotiating. Two parties coming together to get to mutually beneficial terms. You're not going to win on everything, and it's not about winning on everything that you want. In fact, that's actually a bad negotiation. You want to be able to come to an agreement where the most important things work for both entities. And how do you solve challenges when in the negotiation process you may have certain requirements that are very important to you as one individual, one party in the negotiation, and the other individual or their company or one party is very focused and stuck on. And how do you move past that? So, and how does negotiation come up? Well, certainly it comes up first of all in the initial sales process. So when you're interacting with your decision makers or influencers, those who actually have the budgets where the contract budgets are held. So there's an element of negotiation in that process, and it's usually high level terms. What's the fee, over what time period, et cetera? What are the deliverables? All kinds of things, depending on whether you're selling professional services or you're selling goods or products. But then there's an additional negotiation phase, and that's typically with the procurement individuals in a large company and in government agencies. So they typically sit in a different division or department or group. So, and then there's legal, and sometimes they're one and the same, and sometimes they're actually two different entities. So there could be technically up to 3 levels of negotiation. And so, so then when you get to procurement and legal, then there are issues around legal terms. And so I'll give you an example. So for us, for BuySync, we're often going back and forth with respect to issues around data security and privacy. And what's very important to large corporations is that, you know, we can meet those global requirements. We of course can. We say yes, but I'm just kind of giving you a sense of things that come back. Terms and conditions, indemnification, instances where you have liability versus the corporation. Net payment terms. Net payment terms. I want to talk to you about that because that is a big one. And I have found more often than not that you can actually negotiate net payment terms. And by that I mean it's not uncommon to get in comments back, whether they're reviewing your service agreement or you're negotiating over that entity's master services agreement, known as MSAs. Net payment terms are a big one, and I will share with you that it is often in their best interest to extend the net payment terms, whether they're net 45, net 60. I've actually even seen in instances net 90. Now, here's what you have to understand. Net 90, you have to actually read all the fine print because net 90 could be from the time that you invoice. And then there's what's the triggering point that you can invoice? This process can extend to like 4 months. You could be carrying the delivery of the contract for 4 months before you get paid. And so if you agree and you don't understand what the terms mean. So one of the things that we're always paying attention to, besides all the other things, is in fact net payment terms. And when we get these really longer net payment terms, we will negotiate that back. And I would say more than 50% of the time we prevail. Doesn't mean, so we'll come back with maybe a net 30 and they may then come, you know, if they come back with, they suggest net 90, we'll come back at net 30, they'll come back at net 60. We'll somewhere get in some place that's better than the net 90. And that is huge. That's about cash flow. Cash flow is hugely important in your business. So staying on cash flow. So those net payment terms are a big one, in addition to other things, by the way. But I find business owners, in particular women business owners, struggle with those kinds of things. If you don't negotiate and you don't get to a point and say, this is what works better for us, it could actually put your business at risk. You could put your employees at risk, you could put your business at risk, and many other things. So you might have to borrow to float the contract, then there's the interest that you pay, your profitability is lower, all those kinds of things. So it's really important to understand the importance of negotiating. The other thing is women tend to under-negotiate. Research shows this. This is not Michele's observation. There's actually research around this, and we tend to under-negotiate in all kinds of areas of our business and, frankly, our professional lives, even negotiating your employment terms or your salary or those kinds of things. So, and it's often driven by fear, and it's often driven by fear of hearing the word no. So the first thing is, remember what the objective is of the negotiation. The negotiation is for two parties to come together to get to a point where you have mutually beneficial terms. It doesn't mean you're going to win everything you want. And there's usually, for sophisticated negotiators, and they certainly exist on the corporate side and on the government side, they expect that there's going to be some negotiation going on. They expect that you're going to actually counter offer, or you're going to ask for changes in terms. So don't be afraid of the word no. Now, there's so much more I can go into, and in fact do, in my Possibility Architect mentoring program. So I just wanted to give you a sense of some of the topics that I talk about, and just to give you a little bit of background on my Possibility Architect mentoring program. First of all, the name came up because of Possibility Architect because of all of my experiences in life, and I'm a firm believer that you architect your own possibilities, and certainly in the context of scaling businesses. And I'm about scaling businesses, not about micro businesses, but large businesses, for a number of different reasons. Possibility Architect came up as a program because I get asked often if I can mentor and coach, in particular women and minority entrepreneurs. I spend a lot of time in that space through various organizations. And because I have scaling businesses, it's hard for me to say yes on this, individual level, but yet I've benefited from the advantages of having mentors. So hence I came up with the Possibility Architect mentoring program. I hope you check it out. I also have a free masterclass for you to see, and I share a lot of tips and learnings that I have come to as a result of all the years of owning scaling businesses that sell to large corporations and government agencies. So I hope you'll check it out, and I hope you'll join me next week. And ask questions in the comments, because I will be answering the questions that individuals ask, most likely in this context where we're talking through our, this weekly office time with me. I hope you have a wonderful week ahead.